All right, let's dive right into this explainer. If you're sitting in the boardroom right now, you might be pretty used to looking at social media as just a basic cost center. Maybe a vanity project full of likes and shares that doesn't really mean much. But today, we're going to completely dismantle that idea. We're looking at this strictly through an executive lens, reframing social media from a mere marketing playground into a highly protected, revenue-generating enterprise asset. We're going to explore exactly how to audit your current digital properties, lock them down legally, and actually measure their direct impact on your company's bottom line. So, here's our agenda for today. 1. Social media's bottom line impact. 2. Conducting a digital health audit. 3. Mitigating risk with contracts. 4. Securing IP and confidentiality. And finally, number 5, turning activity into revenue. Let's kick things off with Section 1, social media's bottom line impact. So here's the million-dollar question. Literally, is your social media a revenue driver or is it a legal liability? Because let's be honest, unmanaged social channels are an absolute black hole for your budget and a massive reputational risk. Without real boardroom oversight, these platforms can just quietly bleed your resources dry. But if they're properly governed, they are a fantastic high-yield investment. The goal here is a total shift in your organizational mindset. We aren't chasing viral moments anymore. We're building a predictable, scalable asset that generates actual, measurable business value for every dollar you put in. And let's talk about those dollars. The financial benchmark for success here is crystal clear, a 3-to-1 return. Basically, you should be expecting $3 in generated business value for every single dollar you invest in your social channels. And get this, for paid social campaigns, a 5-to-1 ratio is actually considered strong. But establishing those benchmarks is pretty much impossible if you're looking at incomplete data. You've really got to benchmark against your own historical performance and then progressively optimize to hit those numbers. Moving right along to Section 2, conducting a digital health audit. You might have dozens of active accounts scattered across your enterprise right now, but are they actually worth your team's time? Before we can accelerate returns, we have to conduct a rigorous digital health check. We use the old reliable journalistic 5 W's methodology: who, where, what, when, and why to audit our output. This technique maps out your output as the creator, your consumers' activities as the engagers, and even your competitor strategies to see exactly what's hitting the mark. By stacking your audience up against these questions, you uncover detailed, actionable insights about your performance and completely eliminate the guesswork. As an executive, this right here is exactly what you should demand to see for every single account bearing your company's name. You need the handle, the core KPIs, the dedicated channel owner, and the top content. Think of this as your single source of truth. If an account doesn't have a clear owner, or if it isn't tied directly to a specific business goal, like lead gen or community engagement, honestly, it just shouldn't exist. To put that into perspective, take a look at the software giant SAP. By ruthlessly evaluating their accounts against strict key performance indicators, they just started shutting down underperforming channels. They literally slashed their footprint from 1,200 accounts down to just 450. Think about that. Less noise, vastly more impact, and massively freed up resources. That is the true power of a proper audit. All right, let's jump into Section 3, mitigating risk with contracts. Now, managing all these channels usually requires some agency oversight, but never, ever rely on a handshake. Without a formal management agreement, you're looking at brand dilution, a severe loss of control, huge legal liabilities if privacy laws get violated, and total financial waste if the agency drops the ball. On the flip side, an airtight contract guarantees brand consistency, protects your intellectual property, and lays out crystal clear deliverables. These formal agreements are absolutely non-negotiable for holding agencies strictly accountable for their performance. Which leads us perfectly into Section 4, securing IP and confidentiality. Listen, this is a massive, massive blind spot for so many organizations. Intellectual property in this context means the legal ownership of your social media accounts, your follower base, and the proprietary content created for those channels. It is absolutely vital that your contracts explicitly state that the business, not the creator, not the social media manager, and definitely not the external agency, legally owns these valuable digital assets. Because if the relationship ends, you must retain full control of the audience that you paid to build. So, to lock that down, your contracts absolutely need these structural pillars. You have to clearly define the scope of work and deliverables. You need fixed timelines. You must tie payment terms directly to performance milestones. And crucially, you need incredibly strict confidentiality clauses. Social media managers often have the keys to highly sensitive customer data and behind-the-scenes company operations. To prevent unauthorized leaks and guarantee long-term brand consistency, these airtight provisions have to be locked in before a single post ever goes live. Okay, we've arrived at the final section, number 5, turning activity into revenue. Now we're getting to the ultimate executive question. How do we connect all this protected activity to the bottom line? Well, we have to strip away fluffy marketing jargon like likes and impressions and apply this standard formula. Return from social media minus the cost of social media marketing divided by the cost multiplied by 100. We are strictly measuring the direct business value generated relative to the capital you invested. But here's the catch. Calculating that return means you have to look at both direct conversions and indirect value, like customer retention and pipeline growth. And that is exactly where customer lifetime value, or CLV, comes into play. Instead of chasing those quick, one-off conversions, sophisticated tracking lets us measure the long-term revenue that multi-touch attribution brings in. By tracking social-driven customer journeys using UTM links and plugging that data directly into your CRM, you can actually analyze repeat purchases and retention rates. You find out pretty quickly if your social investments are actually bringing in high-value, long-term customers. To do this right, we need a total shift in our marketing mindset. For years, brands were completely obsessed with share of voice, which is really just how loud they were compared to their competitors. But that's just an exposure metric. Share of engagement is what actually matters now. It measures meaningful consumer interactions, intent, and action. Because let's face it, actionable engagement is a far better predictor of future sales than just being the loudest voice in the room. Now, another brilliant tool for proving ROI is sentiment analysis. By using social listening tools, we can translate raw, messy conversations into highly actionable business intelligence. Say you're a tech brand. You track positive terms like seamless and reliable against negative ones like crash, slow, or outdated. This lets your customer service and product teams shift from being reactive to proactive, spotting market trends and fixing critical issues way before they turn into a PR nightmare. If you want some hard proof that this methodology actually generates revenue, just look at Airbnb. Their #LiveThere campaign didn't just beg people for likes. It encouraged travelers to share authentic local stories using user-generated content. And because they tracked this campaign aggressively, they reported a massive 13% increase in actual bookings. It perfectly proves that when you align authentic content with strict ROI tracking and strategic goals, social media truly transitions into a powerful, measurable sales engine. So as we wrap up this explainer, consider the device you probably have sitting right next to you and the immense corporate value contained within those apps. We've seen today that through rigorous auditing, bulletproof legal contracts, and really sophisticated ROI tracking, you can transform what used to be a chaotic marketing channel into a highly tuned business asset. Yes, it takes discipline, but the financial rewards, they're completely undeniable. I'll leave you to audit your own blind spots with this final critical thought. Who currently holds the keys to your company's digital reputation? And more importantly, what is it actually doing for your bottom line? Make sure those assets are protected, measured, and driving real growth. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.